Welcome back to the Daily Rundown. Now, workers at Sports Direct's Derbyshire base will receive back pay of about £1 million for non-payment of the minimum wage. That's according to the Unite union. The distribution centre in Shirebrook has been under scrutiny over its Victorian working practices. Unite said the payments, backdated to May 2012, could be worth up to £1,000 for some workers. And in June, Sports Direct boss Mike Ashley admitted workers were paid below the minimum wage. So we're happy with this. It's a victory for the unions. I kind of wondering how a big company like Sports Direct were able to get away with that for so long. David, you've been in an employer status.
Well, I've been in big companies, and if the people,
how would they have got away with this?
Pay as you earn, I don't know how you can get away with it because the tax office can see what people are being paid. You know, if they're working 38 hours a week and they're not getting, was it £7 an hour now or something like that?
$7.59.
There should be immediate.
And it's an age thing as well.
That's a living wage.
Yeah.
No, that's become the minimum now. The living wage.
That was the living wage.
Is now being enforced as a minimum wage. Now the point is that the tax office can see that. They should inspect that, spot it in the computer, go out and prosecute the company. There's too many people who get away with this.
But did
minimum wage.
None of the employees whistleblow on them because surely they've seen their pay packet and being done over here.
There were a few, if I remember correctly, questionable practices. I don't know if either of you were on the show when we talked about it before. There's something they got paid onto a card as well that they had. It was quite strange, and for such a large brand that we're all aware of. We see the big shops, we see the bags, the kids. Obviously athleisure is such a big thing. They've never been making probably as much profit.
But they want to make an example of this guy. This guy's a billionaire.
Are you happy to see him being made an example of in this way?
He should be fined heavily. I would even say a custodial sentence because I think, well, he's basically
exploitation.
He's a thief of these people's hard-earned money.
He knows what he's doing. Mike Ashley.
No wonder he's a billionaire. That's why he's done it. He doesn't pay his staff enough.
Yeah, no, but most companies do pay the minimum wage. They do pay what they're supposed to pay.
I thought it was the law.
I don't know how big company. Well, I know a lot of restaurants break it all the time. I can tell you from my experience in London. I was hiring a guy from a restaurant, and then he was going to work for me, and then I discovered he didn't have an NI number.
He'd been being paid cash in hand.
He was being paid cash in hand, and he didn't want to get exposed. He wanted to get cash in hand from me, and that's the problem. There's too big a black economy in this country, which is huge. Mike Ashley is just the beginning of it.
Do you think
the small guys we should be after?
Well, that was my next question. What might we see more fines and investigation and that type of thing with large companies and small, I guess, with any employers?
I hope so. It does explain why when I went into Sports Direct a couple months ago to get a pair of trainers, the staff all looked like they just wanted to commit suicide. Because I'm not sporty, I don't know, you probably can tell. But and I had to get specific shoes because I wanted to take up a bit of running and stuff, and they just were wandering around like in a daze, like they just didn't want to be there, and and I think, and now I understand why. They've been basically slave labour.
Probably a mixture of reasons there as well. I mean, they're quite, I think they're mostly a young sort of student.
What are you trying to imply, Fiona?
I don't know, nothing at you. I'm just going to say, like, I think if you walk in...
You think they were bored by the job?
I think most student part-timers don't really like...
I guess so.
That's not an excuse, I'm only joking. I'm
That's
not
the
surmising
problem.
there.
Too many jobs are given to part-time people.
Yeah.
And there aren't enough full-time jobs in these sectors.
Particularly in retail.
I feel it would be less likely to go under the radar than if it was more of a full-time
You went
basis.
from full-time to mostly part-time between 2000 and 2010, thanks to tax credits. That was one thing. They said, get rid of all your full-timers, bring people down, hire all these 15-hour workers. Why? Because the government's paying for them and we can get them the rest of the time. And that was partly the fault of both Labour and Conservative governments, because that continues to this day. But I think that full-time jobs, if people are doing that as a full-time job, they're more committed. And they'll be more engaging and lively and happy.
Well, if they got paid more, yes. If they got paid retail, it's just terrible.
And I think obviously the zero contract thing is another issue as well, isn't it? I think that affects their wage. But would you imagine that this is the tip of the iceberg? If we pull at this thread, we're going to kind of see.
Probably. It's depressing, but yeah, it's bound to be. And I just hope the punishment fits the crime.
Very good, very good. Because I suppose when you have something that's so big and such a big brand and a recognisable one, it does make you wonder, doesn't it, what's happening with the smaller,
it reflects
companies.
So badly on the fact that people say, oh, British people don't want to work, and they don't have the work ethic. Well, things like this are not going to help people who want to get out of bed each day and do a hard day's work.
Yeah.
It's just so depressing. It all affects people's motivation, the productivity. I mean, down the line, it's a very negative thing.
To be fair, probably a lot of people might find it easier and more profitable to be living on benefits than to be working a full week on those kind of wages, wouldn't they? Although, but happily,
that's why they brought in this wage.
Of course.
And that's why guys like him actually should be massively prosecuted.
Yeah.
Maybe he should do a week in prison. You're right.
So what is actually happening to him? He's being fined.
They have to pay the back pay.
But they can't afford to pay it all back, apparently. There's some loophole that they're only going to pay back a percentage of it. They're not going to get everything back that they actually have done. So even that's not actually worked as a punishment. Yeah.
Well, maybe it'll be interesting to see if how it will affect the law in general going forward, or how much responsibility they will have to, or what kind of consequences employers will have to face going forward.
I think that all the directors of the company, not just him,
should
be accountable on this.
Yeah.
Because
he's
they
the
know.
Figurehead,
he's a figurehead. I'm not trying to protect him.
Yeah.
But the power in a limited liability company, which we've had since the 1850s, limited liability means you're not responsible for all the debt. The company can borrow money and it's not yours. And the shareholders don't have the power. It's the directors of the company who do. In fact, that's one of the problems we've got today. Shareholders are trying to say, how can we get powers back from the directors in a lot of these companies? So they're the ones who should be in the front line of being prosecuted.
And as you say, the tax office should be paying a bit more attention.
Well,
that's an interesting point, actually. Yeah, maybe that is.
If they hired me for a few £1 billion a year, I would give them advice as to how to track this, but our government computer systems are completely hopeless.
We need some consultancy there. Thanks very much, gentlemen, for that one. Let's move to our next story. A poll of education staff suggests that too many pupils with special educational needs and disabilities in England lack crucial support. More than 80% of almost 600 staff said some pupils were being failed. The government said it wanted all children to reach their potential, and of the 585 staff in English state schools who responded to the poll, 70.7% believed the system was failing to identify all children with special needs quickly enough. 58.4% believed pupils officially identified as having special needs did not receive the help that they need to achieve their potential. Now, the survey follows a debate at the union's annual conference where delegates expressed fears that the identification and support of special needs pupils was being compromised. What do we think here on the Daily Rundown couch? Are our children with special needs being failed, Drew, do you think?
Well, it seems like the government moved the goalpost, they changed the system, and it affected severely kids with severe special needs.
Yeah.
But those who are on the cusp with milder things like dyslexia are no longer eligible. So that's really what's created the problem. It's sort of dictating there's a tier system, and it's dictating the fact that unless you're severely with severe issues, then you're not going to qualify for any of these special types of facilities, teacher training. So what are you supposed to do, There's
that shortfall now, isn't there?
Well, yeah, and it's one of those things that it's very hard, particularly if you have a mild, they were saying dyslexia and dyspraxia are two of the main ones that are now being sort of overlooked, the milder cases of it. It's very hard to detect that as well in a child. So all the more reason then, to put more work in to make sure that they're not going to just fall by the wayside. But at the moment, it looks like they are.
It's almost become full circle, hasn't it? Though we're going back even when I was in school, dyslexia and dyspraxia, like you said, wasn't always picked up on. It wasn't always. It was just they struggled a little bit more. They needed a little bit extra attention.
I've got a friend actually. His son is 12, and they've only just found out literally in the last 18 months that he has a mild autism.
Right.
But it's mild, so it's not. It was harder to detect. People hadn't sort of done any investigations or recognised symptoms. So they just thought, they didn't really think, and it's only now at age 12 it's sort of coming to light, but
And
that should be
it's
detected way sooner than 12.
I was about to say, the detection is, once it's such a large part of the battle, isn't it? Once you're at that point, at least you know how to treat it. David, why do you think, why are these kids being failed, do you think? Why is there not more money and facilities or resources being put into special needs?
What is the percentage
Because previously I
of
think actually we have done
kids
quite
in the
well.
school who have these special needs?
I don't have that to hand, but
That would be interesting to know. And I'm wondering if some, I mean, obviously when I was a kid at school, you never heard about stuff like that. We never heard of dyslexia.
you sound a little bit like Grandad now, David. You know,
You were sat back with Raffia, weren't
nobody
you?
had special needs and that kind of back in
But I think, obviously, this is in primary school education, where we shouldn't. That's one of the places where we should invest a lot of money in teachers in primary school education, and there should be some incentive given to teachers who can take people with special needs and improve their skills. Maybe a bonus or something like that, as to help them get ahead.
Well, some of the teachers
Because
were
I
saying
think
they
a
just
lot,
wanted
I
training.
will question the quality of a lot of the teachers we've got now,
That's
especially the younger generation.
I don't know if I would be comfortable with the idea
When was the
of
last time a
commissions.
teacher was sacked in a British school?
Well, I mean, a lot of the time what we'll be talking about here in this situation is a special needs assistant, which would take some of the strain off a teacher, I think, what we need in the classroom. But it's the actual testing and...
It is, but that report was saying that the teachers are looking for this training and they're not getting it. They're happy and willing to
There's no
learn it.
facility.
There's no
I think that should be. No, I agree. That
You know,
should
and
be
it's something
available.
like 200,000 kids now have just fallen through the hole because they're only mildly in need of whatever, and that's the big issue.
But the problem is,
mildly could be drastically though in their actual education down the line and in their development.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to have that sort of like snowball
Yeah.
effect. As another years pass, they might hide it more, become more sort of like have lots of issues and stuff, and that's exactly the reverse of what you want to happen.
well, teachers should be trained on this. Obviously, a lot more should be put into that. They could take the money out of other areas where they waste it. In education.
Interesting. Have a think about this on the break, David. Which areas they take it off? We'll come back to that. We'll come back to you with that after this break. We're just going to be a few minutes. Go and make yourself a cup of tea, and then come straight back to us for more news and our special interview. See you soon.